Hello, good evening everyone, and welcome to the first ever TransformGov Talks. I'm Gavin Freegard, I'm your host for the evening and one of the organisers, and I'll tell you a lot more about TransformGov Talks in a second. Welcome to the future of government, I guess. This is a new event series that we're hoping to become a monthly beta. Before I tell you more about it, just a few quick thank yous to Apolitical, to UK GovCamp, and to Ministry of Justice, to Mark, I'm sure you're at the MOJ, for all of their support in making this happen tonight. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you here in the room and everyone online as well for joining us. What is TransformGov Talks? Well, there are lots of people in and around government who care about making it work better. This is a new monthly beta for all of you and all of your friends. Please do keep telling people. We're going to be hosting presentations and discussions about innovation in the public sector, about examples of impactful policy or services, basically lots of ideas to help the public sector work better in the 21st century. As you can see, we're live here in the room. We're also being live streamed. That does mean that we are on the record as well. A lot of us, and I'm sure some of you as well, have been to things like UK GovCamp, have been involved in things like One Team Gov. We're really keen to try and bring that energy back and try and sustain that through here as a discussion place to think about how to make it better. We don't just want it to be about data and digital tech, as important as that is. We've got both of our speakers tonight talking about that. We're also interested in policy innovation and all of the other things that government does as well. Also, very importantly for those of you in the room, there's free pizza afterwards. To those of you online, sorry that our budget doesn't quite stretch to that. Just so you know who we are, the organisers as well as me, it's Dave and Derek. You will see that we are pale, male, and hopefully not too stale, but I'll let you judge that. We are looking for other people to get involved, help us find new networks of people to bring along to these sorts of events. Email us, transformgovtalks@gmail.com. Whether you're interested in helping us organise, whether you would like to speak or know someone that we should be inviting to speak, or perhaps you'd like to give us some money to keep this going, again, transformgovtalks@gmail.com. This is how it's going to work this evening. We've got two brilliant speakers, no pressure. They're each going to have 25 to 30 minutes where they'll present for a little bit, and then there'll be time for questions and answers and discussion as well. We'll be able to take questions in the room and also online. For all of you on Google Meet, please use the chat there to pose your questions. We will finish at 7. For those of you in the room, we can continue the discussion over pizza after that. To those of you online, again, apologies that you don't have a free pizza to look forward to. Our two speakers tonight are going to be Andreas Varotsis, who is the head of AI capability and incubator for artificial intelligence, who will be talking to us about the work of AI. And then we'll be hearing from Jeni Tennison, the Executive Director of Connected by Data, where full disclosure, she is my boss, so be particularly nice to Jeni. She'll be talking about the new advisory panel to DSIT's Digital Sector Design Project. Before I hand over to Andreas, just to flag our next event, we'll be here on Wednesday, the 20th of 2024. Hopefully two brilliant speakers lined up for that one as well, which I may say a bit about later, but do put that in the diary for now. And with that, I'm going to invite Andreas to the stage.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, everyone. So, my name is Andreas. I'm the head of AI capability at the Incubator for AI. And the plan is, the next sort of 20-ish minutes, to essentially tell you a little bit about what we've been doing over the last 2 years. I wasn't quite sure what the brief was, but the good news is we kind of haven't stopped transforming in some way, shape, or form every 6 months for the last 2 years. And we will be transforming again in the next 6 months. So I figured, you know what, I'll just tell you what we've been doing for 2 years. And hopefully you'll find some of that interesting. Hopefully there'll be an exciting demo or two to show you some of the cool stuff we've built. And hopefully a lesson or two. So it's going to be somewhere between like retro, victory tour, and swan song for various projects and various bits. But hopefully it shall be interesting. So who are we? This was the original pitch. I think it's still the pitch, although again, it's sort of changing quite quickly. But we are a team of now 50 and growing sort of people at the heart of government, mostly quite heavily technical. About 80% of us are engineers in some way, shape, or form, and that's quite broad. And our goal is to sort of accelerate, transform the government, and encourage us to seize the opportunity of AI in a whole range of weird and exciting ways. Essentially, if the government wants to get it done, and we think AI may be able to do it, we will happily do our best to see if it has an AI solution. Well, if it doesn't, but that's okay. So these were sort of original functions. We do a bunch of different things. So we do prototyping, we build prototypes and see if it works. AI is still quite new. I will say we have quite a broad definition of AI. You know, we're not like, oh, it's only Gen AI. Frankly, if it's fancy machine learning, if it's fancy statistical modeling, as far as I'm concerned, throw it in the AI box. So yeah, we do prototyping, we do delivery. So once we've built something, we scale it up, we make sure it works, and ideally we make sure it's impacting real services. We modularize, so we take the things we've learned, we take the modules, we take the code, we make sure the code is open source and shareable, and people can use it. And ideally we use it in all sorts of weird and wonderful places. And finally, we try and do a fair bit of like convening and advising, trying to bring people together who are sort of building AI stuff. There are loads and loads of people thinking about AI, which is exciting, but there aren't necessarily as many people thinking about how we build AI in sort of meaningful, useful ways, and we try and make sure people are thinking about that as much as they can. So one thing I'll flag is that the I.AI is kind of the AI for public good program in lots of ways, in that it's lots of teams that have been swapped in and out of each other, transferred, moved around. There's a whole lot of us, and I thought, let's just give a bit of a flag because it's far more than just us. So we sort of emerged partly out of number 10. Our director, Laura Gilbert, it was director of analysis at number 10 and started by forming sort of 10DS, the data science team at number 10, whose goal is to inject analysis and evidence into the heart of government through sort of technical expertise. And what that essentially means is they make sure that the PM and his team in number 10 have high-level statistical models and high-level good data programs, good data dashboards to create evidence in the heart of government. And that's sort of where we come from. We are separate, but we are sister teams, and that means we have, in some ways, quite a similar view around, you know, strong delivery-focused technical people. But as you'll see, there's a fair bit more to it. But it's worth recognizing that it's sort of our origin story in some ways, and a lot of us are still 10DS badged. I'm still officially number 10, or they're moving over. And then, yeah, 2 years ago, this was what was created. I.AI originally as the incubator for automation innovation. And I thought it was worth flagging this again because some people get grumpy when they hear us say AI. I will say that AI was slightly rebranded, and I think in our hearts, some of us are still automation innovation. You know, we'll do AI, but we have a broad view. Essentially, if we can make computers do things quickly and automatically and help build government services, we do some of that. And yeah, so I.AI was originally created sort of mid-June. That we know we're a small team of sort of 5 or 6 of us, mostly doing sort of core software development, including Nina, who's also here, and I was there pretty early. And we did a bunch of interesting stuff. And again, back then, our core role was automating important products in Cabinet Office. And I thought I'd start by showing you one product, which I thought would be a good example, which was Elandi. And Elandi was a product to automate how we delivered learning and delivery in the Cabinet Office by building a really nice new learning and development platform. And the AI bit is the thing that I think is quite interesting because it sort of shows where we've moved along. So yeah, Elandi was initially a sort of lesson tracking and skills tracking, but what I thought was quite cool about it is we built a really nice piece of automatic skill recommendation into it. So if I put my job title as data scientist, it would automatically do a nice piece of data analysis and pull out recommended skills from civil service jobs. So it took 2 years of civil jobs adverts, extracted all of those, tried to identify what was a meaningful skill and link those to job titles. So I could say, I'm a data scientist, what skills should I learn? What skills are linked to data scientist roles? And it would pull out a whole bunch of skills from civil service jobs. And you could change that as you went. So if you said I have a focus on immigration, it would put out a different set of skills. Or if I have a software on fraud, it would put out a different set of skills again. It was quite exciting. And what I think is worth noting here is that this was, I think, for a lot of us, at the base of this is a transformer embedding model, which is the tech that powers what a lot of people are now excited about the AI space, which is the ChatGPT type stuff. And the reason that is exciting is if you get an urgent phone call and it's like, oh God, you need to radically change role and your job is no longer data scientist, but secret agent or super spy. It doesn't matter that we have no secret agent or super spy in our civil service jobs database. It will still recognize what skills a secret service super spy might be nearest to and recommend a bunch of, hopefully, if you are a secret super spy, let me know if this is off the books. But it seems vaguely plausible, and I think we were really pleased with the fact that we'd spent, a few months of time, done some really fancy AI stuff, and built this really traditional but cool AI policy plan. And then our head of engineering told me, this thing called ChatGPT just come out. And I've just said, tell me 10 skills for X. And it's given me a list of skills. And it took 3 lines of code. And it crushed my soul. But I think it's worth recognizing that like the world did kind of change in many ways in like, what was it, like September 2022 or something, like November 2022, when like the first ChatGPT sort of clone starts coming out. And it did, and obviously it made us think, actually, we need to understand this stuff. We need to be using some of this stuff. And it changed a lot of what we do, which will inform some of the demos we show you later. But the good news is it has, like, this stuff hasn't just died, which is exciting. Not all of our products go into production. Not all of our products go on to serve massive cabinet office functions, but we do make sure they get reused. We do make sure the code lives on. This was some analysis we did with cabinet office people services. So, trying to understand, again, making use of those skills to start building taxonomy of skills in the civil service. So this visualizes all those skills in like dimensional space, right? So do you have a laser? Oh my God, I've got a laser. Yeah, so it sort of extracts them and tries to separate where they are. And this is at the core of what's behind a lot of these AI models. And the good news is that means you can start extracting from civil service jobs all your meaningful skills. And it's really exciting. And while we've sort of moved on from this project, the Government People Services Group are still using it to try and explore a whole bunch of exciting stuff, which is good news, right? So not every product might need to deliver an all-singing, all-dancing product, but we try and make sure that everything survives in some way, shape, or form. I'm quickly going to highlight some of the other stuff because I'm aware we don't have an awful lot of time. But the innovation fellowships. Who here has heard of the number 10 innovation fellowships? At least good. Nowhere near enough is what always makes me sad. So if you go to number 10innovationfellowships.gov, maybe, or Google number 10 innovation fellowships, I don't know our website. So this is, I think it's worth mentioning. So for those of you who don't know, innovation fellowships kind of came out of a White House program where they thought we should get exciting people who might not be in government and get them to come work in government for a small period of time. That is more focused on young, excited, policy-focused people, which is nice. But when it was adapted to the UK, it sort of changed a bit, and now it's become very much the number 10 AI Innovation Fellowships. At least that is what it was last year. We'll see what it looks like next year. But essentially, this was a program we facilitated whereby we brought in, give or take, 10 experts from academia and industry on 12 months secondments and contracts, which would never probably have come to work in civil service full time. It's just not something that would have fitted their life. But because we could bring them in on a sort of come work for us on a short-term basis, on contract or secondment from the organization, we managed to get some really, really exciting, excellent people. And those people have contributed to the work of I.AI, and I thought it's going to be worth, I'll highlight some of them later. So this was a prototype one of our innovation fellows built. Again, didn't go into production, but he cranked us out in a week, and I thought it was so cool that we should show it off. He was thinking about how we could improve reporting of sort of antisocial behavior and quality of life issues. And he is an expert in spatial data science and on-device AI. And this was a prototype he threw together within 2 weeks or something called Streets AI that used on-device AI in iPhones and Android devices to automatically classify videos into different types of antisocial behavior antisocial behavior stuff. So, it could detect potholes, it can detect graffiti, it can detect all of that stuff. And then ideally, the pitch was use it to go in and report stuff. That hasn't happened, but I think the fact that we've had really good people who can spin up prototypes at pace coming from academia and industry has been really exciting. We've also had people join us from a whole range of places, including AI labs, including consultancies, including Microsoft, one of whom I'll sort of feature again later. And then I want to give a little bit of a shout out to Evidence House, because I think community is an important part of what we do and sometimes doesn't quite get enough credit. I mentioned already convening and sort of upskilling. And Evidence House is our arm for doing that. That sort of come out of both 10DS and I.AI. Essentially, we have a big cross-government community. I say community, it's kind of a mailing list, but I call it community. We have a big cross-government community of about coming up to 1,000, I think, now civil servants who are excited about learning technical data science, analysis, and AI skills. And we do a bunch of stuff with them. We bring them all together to upskill them. So we run workshops, we run boot camps, we run all that sort of stuff. We bring them together to run hackathons where we build prototypes, some of which go on to development. Again, that's a cheeky callback to later. And ideally, we bring them all together and bring them to sort of upskill us to sort of up-resource us and give us flex capacity when we need it. And it's been really important in enabling some of our work. I'm going to give you a quick sort of best bits of the last 2 years in Evidence House, because I think some of it's actually really cool. So last July 2023, we ran a big innovation hackathon at City of London University? Yes, City University. 100 civil servants. We bought in OpenAI, we bought in Anthropic, we bought in AWS, we bought in Microsoft. And like, I know if you are a tech person in many, if you are like a 20-year-old exciting tech things, you will have been to hackathons if you are that sort of person. You can't necessarily do that in civil service, right? Because we don't really have that sort of culture and we don't really have the time and we've got a lot of work to do. Some of us do, but it's not a like universal experience by a long shot. And I think we were really keen to try and do some of that and try and give people some of that experience, even if they couldn't do it. And this was really exciting because we managed to run it during the day. We managed to run it on civil service time. We managed to encourage directors and DDs to release people to come spend 2 days learning and building cool products with people from across government. We managed to get Microsoft to give people Azure credit so they could just build stuff together in a collaborative way without having to send code over laptops and go back and forth. And the result was people built some really cool stuff. People built a digital prototype of Redbox. Again, that's a cheeky callback later. And we got Hannah Fry to come judge, which I was like, that was the coolest thing ever. I was way too excited by it. Also, some ministers and some important GDS people and my director, but more importantly, speaking of Hannah Fry, it was awesome. We ran one again last year. Last year in July 2024, we ran an even bigger one, 250 civil servants in Imperial College, even more people from industry. We had like YC nominated people turn up. We had 30 teams all building prototypes. It was really cool. We got loads and loads of people to build loads of really, really exciting stuff. And finally, again, some of you might be wondering, why does this link to important AI work? I have a point, I promise. Then finally, a bit of a coup de grace. Last November, we helped run the One Big Conference Civil Service program where we tried to teach people about data. We brought 700 people into a massive hotel in Houston and ran like 3 different streams on how you could learn about data. That included a bunch of really cool stuff. Hannah Fry came back. Sorry, I can't like call her for events. I promise. Like Laura clearly knows her. I think we're never getting that again, but I'm still really pleased with it. But the thing that I think is still to this day, I think the highlight and kind of shows how good some of the people in our community have got at what is really cutting edge AI in like a year, which I think is still kind of incredible. We ran an AI competition, so we got 250 questions based off FCDO travel data. Which included from the very, very simple, like, does the FCDO recommend travel in Angola, to the significantly more complicated, like, of these 5 countries, which of these does not have X problem in them? And they got really, really complicated. We had 250 of them. And we ran a Kaggle competition, which is sort of online LM competition, including with, I think, 100 or so people towards the end, asked them to break into teams and build predictive models with LLM, so, modern AI agents, fine-tuning them, improving them to answer those as best they could. And you might be able to see like the winning. I kind of thought they just do it during the day and then it'll stop. But I told them it's open to the end of the week. If you want to, don't let me stop you. And you might see that the teams definitely kept going. We had like 15 submissions. They kept going for an entire week, and the teams did a really incredible. Like that is getting 90% of those answers wrong, isn't it right? Is actually really impressive. And that was like really impressive tuning of AI models. And at the end of it, Oliver Dowden and DPM announced that the incubator for automation and innovation would be rebranded into AI. So this is only kind of born in a way. So while I mentioned all this stuff, in a way, as I said, we've transformed loads in the last 2-3 years. And this November last year is when AI was sort of born in its most novel form. We've got the ai.gov.uk domain name, which I'm still disgustingly happy with. It's just, it's a great domain name. We're never going to, it's bonkers that we got it. I'm still very pleased. We had to phone some random domain person. Turns out that's how you buy a .uk domain name. You just phone a company and ask them to buy a domain name. And a very nice lady called Phyllis in the Midlands was like, yes, you can buy ai.gov.uk. It was delightful. So we have ai.gov.uk, and then we had this new team, and we've done nothing but grow since, and it's been really exciting. We have now like 5 programs of work, although this is a little bit blurry, if I'm honest. But essentially, this is how we categorize our work streams. Public facing, which is, I'll give you a few examples in a second, so I appreciate it a bit nebulous, but public facing, which is, trying to public facing services, fraud and error and anomaly detection, matching and triage, so using sort of optimization algorithms to improve how we do things, casework management using JI, and then just kind of general data infrastructure support. So open source services, our sort of key stuff on this is something we've inherited and now managed from 10DS, which is Rapid, an open source library to enable you to swap data through APIs in government, which has actually been really successful. It's got loads of usage in and outside government, which we're really pleased with. But the reason I thought, and these are some of the products which I will be highlighting, which we've built in the last sort of 6 months. I should come back to And the reason I thought we highlighting everything, the reason I've sort of gone on a mad ramble is because I think Redbox is a really good example. So Redbox was our first product that we sort of started building properly. Some of you might remember that the hackathon had a Redbox prototype. Oh, I've gone back too far. But yeah, our first hackathon had a Redbox prototype. And that sort of led directly to the ideation that led, and we brought the team back in. So the hackathon team came and worked with us part-time, supported by the line management, to work 2 days a week over a 6-week period, I want to say, to build the original Redbox prototype. It was led by an innovation fellow. So we were really lucky that Liam, our now head of applied AI, came over on a 12-month secondment from Microsoft and decided he was having so much fun he would stay. And nothing made me happier. So on the first day Liam came up, I had massively underprepared. You might think I sometimes underprepared based off how rough this is. No, I'm always very, very well prepared. And on that day, I was especially well prepared because Liam was turning up and these 4 techies were turning up. And they turned up and was like, we're going to build Redbox. And Liam, with his incredible gift of just architecture knowledge, just walked and was like, yeah, leave it with me. And just sat down and had a whiteboard. And within like 10 minutes, had built an incredible architecture diagram. And Redbox has built and gone from strength to strength since. And it's really kind of exciting. I think I have a cool video. So yeah, Redbox is our Gen AI co-pilot assistant. I forget what we're calling it now. But essentially, it is a co-pilot designed for the civil service by the civil service to make sure we are able to do the jobs we want using Gen AI in the way we want them. And it's actually a really, really cool piece of kit that's been engineered, especially for our use cases. It does a really good job with it. It's accredited to be secure for civil service use cases. It's currently being spun up in, I think, at least 2 departments, if not 3, with sort of hundreds of users. And yeah, it lets you do things like upload your documents, ask them questions, which I know sounds a bit familiar. Some people are like, well, why don't you use Copilot? It has a bunch of interesting advantages for us in that it understands the needs of the civil service. It is cloud agnostic. It is service agnostic. We can run it locally. We can run it securely. We built this to serve our needs, and I think it's really powerful. And the fact that it's gone from, the original pitch was, why are ministers using boxes? Surely we can use AI. And somewhere along the way, people were like, well, this isn't just something ministers should use, right? This is something civil servants should have to help them do all the important work we do, from writing briefing notes to writing policy papers to digesting the millions of emails we get. Redbox does all of that. And it's kind of exciting that it's being used now by, sort of 500-ish people in quite a few departments, which is really cool. And again, I think it shows that we could only build Redbox the way we had because we had the combination of a community of active, excited people who've been involved in the ideation, who are willing to come over and just give some of their time to build something really cool, to have innovation fellows who, came into government because they were excited about the mission of government and to build stuff. And also a team that could host them and give them some place to, live essentially, because people need a home team where they feel at home. You can't just drop experts randomly. You need to give them some place to be. And other AI has been really cool. I'm just going to kind of do a few demos now because I think I might as well show you the good stuff. Our second product we're highlighting is Caddy. So Caddy is a collaboration we did with Citizens Advice. Call center staff, turns out the government has loads of call center staff and they work incredibly hard. And call centers are quite a difficult thing to do. The good news is we are not alone in that. Citizens Advice have been doing advice on all sorts of government problems for a really long time. And they, Citizens Advice Castle, which stands for Stockport, they're going to drink this, Rochdale, Thetford, somewhere near Manchester, had built a really, really cool prototype that gave you expert advice in your chat interface, in their internal Google chat, with a human in the loop built in based on advice. And they've done such a good job with it. It really worked out of the box. They were using it, they liked it. And we're like, great, this can work for us. Can we help you scale it? And we spend the next sort of 6 months doing that. Again, really excitingly, work with members of our community. We got 2 secondees in, worked part-time over sort of 6 weeks to build a prototype. And since then, it's been sort of picked up as AI business as usual. We've now got engineers on it. We've now got a full engineering team who've been building it, scaling it. And it's now used in, I want to say, 5 citizen advice offices and scaling, which is really exciting. It's an operational service, and we've managed to build it. And it's been quite nice to work with actual operational facing people who had a problem, build a solution, and we've helped them scale it rather than try and come up with a solution and sort of inject AI into it. It's been a kind of an obvious fit. It's been really nice. And the final one I want to show off, I don't think anyone's seen this yet, and I might get into trouble, but I'm hoping not. We've been working on improving, this is a prototype we're working on to improve legislation search. So legislation.gov UK is an incredible website. It lets you see all the legislation in the world. It's a really robust website. but it's not, sometimes it's not perfect. If you ask it about vaping, it will tell you, I don't have any legislation about vaping because we don't have any yet. But what we use here is use a really cool semantic search engine, right? So it understands how words are connected. And if you ask it about vaping, it will understand that you want things relevant to smoking and health, and it will understand how things are connected. And it can do things like summarize to define. And again, this is an early prototype, but we're pretty keen on it. It's been really exciting. And we're really hopeful that it can be useful for not just people internal to government who can use it to help them draft bills and do legislation, but ideally people, ideally we can get to a space where the general public can use tools like this to help them understand legislation, understand how it affects them, understand how it's connected, understand how it affects their daily life. Yeah, it's an early prototype, but we're really keen about it, and it is open source, or at least it will be in the next sort of month or so. So if people want to try it, it's all out there. Yeah, I think that was my whole spiel on nearly quickly. That mostly defines what we've been doing the last 2 years. So now I'm quickly going to take the next 3 minutes to discuss what happens next, because this is our retro. But a lot of things are changing. There's been a new, we've had an election. There's a new digital centre of government. And I want to sort of flag 2 things that I've learned over the last 2 years, I think, and they will actually be a little bit relevant. We initially got it's really easy to get excited about AI, and AI is incredibly powerful, but the core software development skills continue to be so important. You can learn how to train 5,000 neural networks, and you can build ChatGPT from scratch, and that's fantastic. But having someone who has a robust software development head who can take a team of 5 junior developers and teach them how to collaborate is so important. And it's been so useful for us to kind of go from a small team of scrappy data scientists and software developers, some of whom, mainly the software developers, were really good at being robust, and some of whom were, more experimental focused, and move into a, all singing, all dancing engineering team has been a real learning experience. And I think it's taught us a lot about how important some of those core skills are. I think I remember the first ever draft job advert we had for AI engineers, and it must know how to manage compute clusters. And it took us not long to realize, we didn't have any GPUs. We're not going to be putting massive graphic cards under the table and number 10 or in the cabinet office anytime soon. Turns out this probably isn't something we need, and I'm quite happy we refactored that draft and instead went for other skills. And secondly, the other lesson is this going to work? No, I tried to do audio, and that was ambitious of me. This is a clip of the CEO Atlassian, I want to say, who bought one of the Slack competitors at however many million people buy these sort of things for. Bought it at a team of 10, and then went, oh, well, we'll double the team now. So we'll double the team. Isn't that fantastic? And that will be great. We'll have double the efficiency. And you forget that doubling a team is a huge amount of work, right? Doubling a team implies teaching people who haven't seen it before. It implies building systems. It implies building code bases and documentation and stuff that you took for granted when there's 5 of you because you all know each other. And suddenly when there's 50 of you, that's an awful lot of work, and it really benefits from scale in a way that I think I hadn't quite appreciated. But the good news is we're moving. We're moving to the new Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. We're moving to the Digital Centre of Government. We're not sure exactly what form yet, but we'll be working with colleagues in GDS and CDDO, and we're going to have an awful lot more people in and around us to talk about these thorny problems, and it's going to be quite exciting. I would tell you what's going to happen in detail. I've got no idea. Cleverer people than me are thinking about it, including people we'll talk to you shortly, I think. So yeah, it's really exciting. The last 2 years have been kind of a whirlwind, and lots of revolutions and changing, and lots of building really exciting stuff. Sometimes it's really hard to see how lasting that stuff has been, but there's at least 1,000 people in government now who know how to build really cool stuff and are really excited about it. And we're going to keep doing stuff and being excited about it. And I think that's pretty good. And I think some of these products will last. And hopefully, if you're interested, you can go to our GitHub, you can spin them up, you can read the code, you can fork it. If you want to contribute to our code, that'll make me very happy. Please come fix my code. And yeah, I think that's probably, oh yeah, we have an awesome website. Oh, we have jobs. Do you want to come build AI? Yes, you do. Come build AI. We're very tech focused, but we have operations managers. We have, what jobs do we have? Delivery managers.
Design, interaction designers,
yes,
engineers.
Exactly. We have a pretty exciting bunch of roles. We hire in some weird and wonderful ways, just like the innovation fellows, but we've got loads of really exciting people doing really exciting stuff. If you want to come build digital AI in the central government, come have a look. And we've got the best domain name ever. So that's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andreas. We've got time, I think, for one very quick round of questions. So I'll take 2 or 3. Remember, we're on the record. Do tell us who you are and where you're from if you can. And please do keep your questions short so we can actually get through a few of them. Who would like to ask Andreas a question? Got one there, I've got one there, and I've got one over there as well. I'm going to start with you just because it's easy for you to get to. We'll take all 3 then, Andreas. You can answer all 3 at once.
Thank you. Thank you very much for a very engaging presentation there. So I think I might have inferred this, but I think you said you invented ChatGPT.
Oh, I did not say that.
No, I'm joking. But I am curious to know some of the things that you've built there. Have you literally started from scratch, or are you kind of building off models that are out there existing? You mentioned sort of security.
Yeah.
So just curious to understand a bit about that, really.
Sorry,
Amanda from I head up learning and development at CogG AI, which is customer service AI.
Hi, Matthew Alexander from Farside Consulting. Firstly, thank you very much for the talk. It was really interesting. Having come from more of a UCD, user-centered design background, I was interested whether you currently are aligning to the service standard. Is that something you plan to do in the future, or how, alternatively, are you ensuring you also meet the needs of users as well as building really cool stuff? Yeah.
Hello, I'm James, Excel Civil Service. What's the one thing that you implanted to those thousands of people you've got in the community so that they can tell the rest of the concept?
Exciting. So, first question was, are we building models from scratch? The answer is definitely no. Not definitely, mostly no. Essentially, we try and be model agnostic. We try and not, essentially, if there is stuff out there, we will use it. We will make sure we are not tied to any single provider. We'll use everything and everywhere we can to build stuff, and we'll use whatever's most appropriate. Once we get procurement takes a while, and some of this stuff takes, it's been a bit of a learning around how you do this stuff, but we use models from a range of providers. We use them on Secure Civil Service Cloud. So again, there's a bit of variety, but we use a mix of proprietary models from all the big labs. We also use open source models. We've done a little bit of work on some of our own stuff. So we've done some recommendation models that have been tuned, but nothing like a sort of ChatGPT style model. We don't want to build the next OpenAI. Yeah, they've got enough on to do that without us trying to catch up. We always try and make sure we're doing something that is bespoke to the needs of the civil service and is not going to have our lunch eaten by Microsoft OpenAI, because that would be silly. Right? Essentially, we need to build something that's distinct. If somebody else in the private sector can do it, is going to compete with us, we probably should be careful about doing it unless we have a really good reason to do it. We've thought quite hard about some of our products. It's been difficult, like Redbox. There's been a moment at the start where, like, is it really distinct? Is it not? What do we do? It's still, right now, we think it's distinct enough. We might, maybe in 6 months, we'll decide, actually, it's not quite there, and decide there's bits to save and bits to move on. Same for a lot of our other products. I didn't mention sort of consort. Consort's really interesting on what we do, like essentially analysis of public consultations. We think it's a distinct use case. Will it be in 2 years? Maybe, maybe not. We'll find out. But yeah, we try not to build from scratch, apart from sort of when we need to, when there's a distinct need for us. We use everything, but we can build it on secure cloud, on secure principles, so we can do things artificial sensitive and potentially up high side if we have to, although we don't normally operate in that space. Service standards was the second question. Yes, it has been a bit of an ongoing discussion for us, if I can be honest. Because of the fact we came out from internal-facing products, essentially, most of our core models was we are building for sometimes relatively small number of users. 10DS, their core job was PM and the PM team. That is a smaller group of members. They might have a smaller list of users. But it's definitely, and it's been something we've been sort of trying to find a good middle ground between saying we can build quickly, we can build stuff that has, this technology can sometimes totally change in 6 months in a way. And so we're not totally sure how we still haven't figured out the perfect answer, but we are keen to make sure we're doing it right, and we're trying to find ways of doing it. So we've built a whole bunch of assurance principles. We go through assurance processes. We've run through a few TDA boards for some of our products. but not absolutely all of them, and not always at the start. It's sort of it's been a bit of a journey. We're still learning. I suspect the move to DSIT will make us learn some more. I'll figure it out. Yeah. And the last question was, someone remind me.
What's the one thing you
yeah.
wanted to those 1,000 people?
I mean, this is a total personal thing, but like I think it's like hackery mindset is kind of what I want to get out of them. Right? Like I want them to get excited about getting together with a bunch of people from across civil service and building things in 2 days. And that's a good use of their time. And like it might not go anywhere, but we should be able to do it, and it's cool. And like if you do that, and if all you achieve out of it is learning a bunch of new things, meeting a bunch of interesting colleagues, and then maybe even showing a minister some really exciting new things, I think that's a good use of time. Yeah, oh god, don't Daily Mail, don't come get me. But we get outputs, but I think the more important thing is trying to create a bunch of enthusiastic, innovative civil servants everywhere who feel a sense of community. Community is really hard to manage. That's something else I've learned actually. Yeah, community is really hard. I came in for the civil service and policing, and I was like, I'm so jealous of all these professions and communities they have. It's so organized and it's so clearly everyone knows each other. And despite the efforts of people like Nina, who tries to manage doors and interviews half the civil service, as far as I can tell, like a lot of these communities take a lot of effort to stand up, but they're really valuable, and we keep trying to do it because communities are important and they're exciting. Hopefully that made sense, or it was a massive tangent. Yeah.
Andreas, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Andreas trailed the digital centre, which started to come together in DSIT, and we have a great person to talk about that. That's Jeni.
Thank you very much. I'm Jeni Tennison. I'm going to be talking about digital centre design. Roughly the things I'm going to cover. What the digital centre design kind of project is, a bit about the kind of political context, both big P and small p, some of my reckons, and I'm going to try and fire you up to this is a good time. We are on the record. I do not speak for government. I don't speak for DSIT, GDS, CTO, IAI, Digital Centre Society, or the external advisory panel that I am on. This is just me doing my records. And the me is my work in coding hackery is legislation.gov.uk. I was then the CEO at the Data Institute for a while. I set up an organisation called Connected by Data, which is all about communities having a powerful say in AI. And we also run a data and AI civil society network, which means that I bring a kind of my hot buttons now are things around civil society engagement. They're around the impact of day-to-day digital systems and AI on people. So those are the kinds of things I talk about now. Right, but let's talk about digital centre design. So you will remember, no doubt, back in February 2023, that DSIT was created in order to, deliver on a clear mission set by the Prime Minister to ensure the UK is the most innovative economy in the world and a science and technology superpower. You will have seen that in earlier this year, after the new government came in fairly rapidly, all of the DSIT was bolstered by bringing in GDS and CDPO to be part of what that looked like. And the final press release on it pointed was from October the 1st this year, which is that a group has been set up, this external advisory panel, which is co-chaired by Martha Lane Fox and CDDO Chair Paul Wilmot, to actually look at what DSIT containing those organisations needs to do in order to fulfil that kind of vision of a digital centre for government. So what does it actually need to do? So the big question for that team who are doing that work in DSIT is, what should the digital centre for government look like? What should DSIT be doing? But of course, that leads on to, or in order to answer that question, you kind of have to answer what should digital public services look like, because that's part of like what that vision needs to be. And actually, if you're answering that question, really you need to answer what should public services look like, just generally, right? Because if we believe in whole service delivery rather than just slapping a digital interface onto an existing service, then we really need to be looking at, we believe in transformation of public services with technology, we need to be looking end to end and back end, so forth. Anyway, so but that question of what public services need to look like is a big P political question, right? And it plays into the kind of narrative and politics that you will see playing out at the national stage. There are decisions that are made and direction setting by the government, and by that I mean politicians and ministers, about how they approach the public. Is it a kind of punishing authoritarian model? Is it kind of more relational, kind of supportive kind of model? It has implications for how big P political decisions about the role of digital and AI, like we're going, full on for AI because it's so exciting kind of vision, is a big P political vision. There are decisions to be made at a big P political level around public and private delivery of these kinds of services. What should be supplied by the public sector? What should be going out to the market? And there's big P political decisions to be made around, is this an evolution of what we already have, or is it much more of a kind of let's really, especially with what DSIT is doing, is it an evolution of what we already have, or are we heading for a revolution? It's a big P political questions. You can get a sense of where things are by picking stuff out of the press releases. That is all I have done here. So, it's all about modern digital government and digital transformation of public services, improving how the government and public services interact with citizens. You can see there the kind of the interfacing bits. Government leading by example, which has a kind of broader kind of impact. I think the personalised, convenient and time-saving vision is an important one, because it has certain implications for what the way in which government is perceiving people interacting with government. Lots of sharing data across the public sector. One way to log in is a big thing, that kind of narrative that's coming through. So just highlight those as being narratives that we're getting at the big P political level. I will now give my reckons, right? And this is just me. So I think that we need to be looking at whole service transformation, not just slapping a literary content on things. I think that the kinds of services that we need to be looking at in order to get to the better delivery of public services overall, the more efficient delivery of public services overall, needs to be much more focused on supporting civil servants and public sector workers than just supporting the citizen. I think we should be heading for stuff that is more relational and inclusive in the kinds of services that we provide. I think we should be aiming for mixed delivery of those services, so in both public sector and private sector. And I think that one of the big things that distinguishes public services from private services, particularly digital public services from digital private services, is that we need to have accountability built in from the very core. And you'll see my civil society kind of thing coming in back, right? That this needs to be something that is accountable to the public, that it is democratically controlled, and that civil society is able to perform its function of holding government to account. I think that those are included in public services. Okay, so with that kind of, if that's the kind of vision around what public services and digital public services should look like. So then the question is, what should that digital sector look like in order to support it? And here I will put out there are small p politics kind of things. We've got huge organisational change with these, by bringing together organisations that have been separate into something that needs to be operating well internally is a big organisational change. One thing I think that we all ought to recognise is that that has real impact for the people themselves who are currently working within GDS, CEO, IAI, and the organisational change is a scary time for lots of people in real time. DSIT is a relatively new department. It has a particular role across the within the central government as a whole. So moving stuff out of DSIT from Cabinet Office will have implications about how it operates and where its influence is. There is a question about the degree to which the digital centre should be, what its scope of operation should be and how it should interact with central government, local government, ALBs, devolved government, also into things like NHS, into like where's the bound on the public sector and therefore what digital should be, the digital centre should be doing. There's a bit that we will probably we recognise, there's a bit about like the delivery of digital and policies to align and be together, and like how this applies into the kind of mission focus and all of those kinds of things that needs to be worked through. There are big constraints around the comms culture. So how much can be made public and when and by whom is a big constraint on the way in which the team can operate. And of course, there are big budget constraints on the budget stuff that is happening now and the agreements that will happen that will limit all of these. My point here is that all of this limits the flexibility that there is to create the great, like in the sky, wonderful thing that we might imagine if we didn't have those limits there. I think we should all be kind of just conscious of those limits as we're working. And I say that mostly to remind myself of that because I'm a big dreamer. But if you look at, again, right through the press releases, the kind of vibe that you'll be getting is that the digital centre is a partner and a standard bearer for the public sector, upskilling civil servants as being a real thing to do, that they have experts in data, digital and AI. Their expertise is a really important thing, building the right infrastructure and regulation around it, and developing that kind of sharing across the public sector, one way to log in. I think those are kind of highlights of where services might be supplied by the digital centre. So those are the kinds of pieces that give a bit more of a clue about what it might look like just from the press releases that are currently public. Again, I'm not like at liberty to share the other stuff that might be going on. My reckons, this is just me, I think that the ambition of the digital centre should be to affect whole of the public sector. Not like, and for some of that, it's at an inspiration level rather than a like working directly in, but it should have an ambition that is that broad, I think. I think it should be really integrated into mission delivery because that's how it will get stuff done in this government. I think it should be an empowering and upskilling kind of have an empowering and upskilling role that supports people who are working on digital across the public sector. I think it should have a focus on commonsing infrastructure, and by that I mean not just supplying platforms for everybody else to use, but having the mechanisms and modes of working that enables everybody across the public sector to contribute to those efforts as well. And I think that it should have a focus on breaking down some of the big barriers that people in digital teams across the public sector really face around kind of budgeting, around procurement, around being able to work in the open, around being able to spend 2 days hacking, around like being able to engage with each other as well, right? So I think that there's some barriers. What I've heard, there are barriers that people feel working in digital teams, and I think part of what the digital centre needs to do is to bash those down. Those are my reckons. That's what I'm arguing for. Just wanted to reiterate. Like, that's just me. I don't speak for anybody. So my final bit here was like what can you guys? I mean, you're spending late afternoon on a Thursday in this place, so you must be pretty fired up about trying to get change to happen in this kind of space. This is a moment for change, and I think it is a real opportunity. There are new narratives with this new government of service, fixing the foundations, For me, really important, use civil society covenant that has a different, which implies a different kind of role that civil society can play in this. So there are new narratives that can be used in order to justify a new way of working. And change is can be led from the top down, but it can also be led from the bottom up, and it is also led from the middle out. At no place within the work of the civil service are you absolutely powerless. You can make things happen from where you are. So find your tribe, because this is part of what really makes it happen. Find your community, engage with other tribes as well, get outside of your little group. And I think, again, like this is a set of people, bring your friends, bring your other people into this. Work in the open, think in the open, dream in the open. It's not just about putting the stuff that you're doing out there. It's also about like exploring this and making this together, about making this vision for what our new approach to public sector services, to digital public sector services could be. Be bold and read Janet on this. Boldness means bringing your whole self to the situation, engage fully with it. It involves openness, it involves optimism, and a commitment to something bigger than yourself. Take that and be bold. You can act where you are right now. Be bold. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jenny. We've got time for at least one round of questions. I can see 2 hands up already, so I'll start with 2 over there and 1 down here. You're really going to make me run tonight.
Hello, I'm Saskia Otto. I work at a think tank called the Fabian Society, and I used to work in Watertown research. I wanted to ask about processes for your panel. Is it called
Expert advisory panel to
Expert
the
advisory
digital centre design team.
How are decisions made within the panel, and how likely is government to accept recommendations?
Fantastic speech from Fabian as a service alum. I've got sort of 2 questions. One is, Andreas showed us what is possible and the speed at what can be achieved. Just absolutely incredibly. But he had the privilege of working in the centre, where a lot of barriers somehow melt away. I was speaking to a current civil servant a couple of days ago. I said, "Are you getting great new vibes from this great new environment, about data sharing, about all this stuff?" And he said, "The last government liked data sharing. No, I haven't noticed any difference. They said they like data sharing, we said we like data sharing, but fundamentally we're still in the same regime." And so as you look at breaking barriers as one of your 5 points, do people understand the extent of change that might be needed? We've had tinkering around here with parts of governments, adding extra legal gateway here, maybe provide a bit of guidance on this, and it's not as cheap a result as we've all seen. And related, the second question is very much related to that, which is the perception of the public mood important in that? Are people waiting? Is DSIT, CPO this summer waiting for a more permissive message from the public, or feeling the public is saying no, go slower? So I'm kind of interested in how much change do you think the public is up for, in terms of compromising, but in terms of the challenges or tensions with data sharing and privacy.
Right.
Thanks, Adam. Really interesting, really great talk. And I'm just thinking about and picking up with Gina McRae. I'm working at the ONS at the moment, and I'm working on data sharing, to pick up on the previous question. I've just lots and lots of initiatives in government come along, And this has got some of the key ingredients. It's got political backing. It's got some really great people working inside it. It's got some of those things flash a little bit red, like you've got a department of machinery government change very recently, and you've got now machinery government change on top of that. So that's very difficult. Like what it did or not, Francis Morgan came in. One of the key things he did was get himself a lever. So we'd always talk about getting control of the spending, controls of our treasury across. Do you have some of those ingredients? Do you think there's some of those ingredients that might give you some of that real traction on the hard things that people often look to, like budget?
Okay, good questions. Right, I was noting them down because I do not have the memory that it enables me to do anything else. Right, on panel governance, it's not a board, it's an advisory panel, right? And so the point of the people who are in that, it's not making decisions for government, it's providing advice to government with a whole bunch of different kinds of perspectives, right, within that group. So it is not like there are decisions that are made by the panel that then get enacted. We are just providing advice to the team that is doing the centre design. So I'll ask you questions. Right, and then the second question you had, two of them, like how much is this different, and also around the kind of perception of public mood. So how much is this different? I think that it's as different as we choose to make it. So I think that this is an opportunity to be grasped. And when I say we, I mean the community of people who are interested in transforming government, who are interested in making this happen. I think that it does have some of the ingredients, but I think that there are some that are kind of that are lacking, and I highlighted some of those things. I think that without a good working in the open type of culture, I think it's going to struggle. Without without budget, actually, it's going to struggle. I think that like those kinds of constraints that we're working within, I think are going to mean that it's challenging. But I think that it's important for us to approach it with optimism and with and to aim for something that we want to see. For me, again, speaking very personally, I think that getting the change to be felt out in the sticks, out in the ALBs, is the thing that will mark this transformation as different from the GDS transformation. And if we can get the mechanisms for that working better, I think that we'll get to something that is a sustainable change that brings everybody on the journey. So that's for me one of the important things.
Particularly local authorities alongside.
And absolutely, local authorities, yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's very there's a big awareness of that within the kind of conversations that I'm seeing. On the second thing around perception of public mood, like again, this is just my perception, is that I don't think that this government is waiting on that. I think that it's going forward with things that it thinks is going to be useful. So I think from that perspective, at the political level, I don't think that that's an issue. I think that, again, this is me with my Connected by Data campaigning hat on. I think that it's important that the public gets brought along on this journey too, and that we incorporate that kind of public engagement as part of how we do business now in the development of digital public services. And then the levers kind of piece. I mean, again, I talked about constraints that there are, and I think that that's tricky. Again, I think that there's some bits around politically how Car sits within and who he influences that will make some of that kind of happen. But I think that it is like there's a bunch of stuff that we can do without it being top down. We should take that moment to try to do it. My main message.
Thank you, Jenny. Before I release people online from their computers and release everything so that you may be able to smell already at the back, a few final slides. First of all, some parish notices. We're very keen to promote other things, other communities, so please do get in touch with us if there's anything you'd like us to highlight. This time around, UK GovCamp, we've referred to it a few times tonight, a really big sort of public sector reform digital data unconference. Sign up for the next one in January. It's open. Please go to the website and sign up. I run an event series called DataBytes, which used to be the Institute of Government, it's now moving to Public Digital. If you enjoyed both talks tonight, I think you'll enjoy DataBytes. Come along on the 6th of November, please do sign up. And again, let us know about things to advertise. I mentioned we've got a second event booked in this room on Wednesday, the 20th of November. We'll be hearing from Caroline Cook, who used to be a service policy professional, is now at the UCL Institute for Regulation and Public Purpose. Jenny mentioned the mission approach of the new government. I think she'll be talking to us about how policy making might work after that. We're also hoping to have Richard Pope speaking about his new platform as well. So fingers crossed we can make that happen. Again, if you would be interested in helping us organise, if you'd like to speak or know someone that should, if you would like to give us some money, which would be better, please do get in touch with us on TransformGov Talks at gmail.com. All that remains to be said in a moment is a massive thank you to Andreas and Jenny, but before I do, just to say that with both of them, you can see all of the stuff that I.AI is doing by going to their website. There's loads going on there. You can go to the Enterprise Data website and see Jenny's reckons in blog post form. Go to Blue Sky, you'll see incredible conversation that's kicked off around digital government recently. So there's plenty on there. But then about you, I've got a real sense of excitement in quite different ways from both of the presentations tonight. I got a real sense of the potential of technology, but the fact that it's not just about technology. And one of those really non-technology human things that I thought was at the heart of what both of us were saying as the importance of community. That's what we're trying to build with TransformGov Talks as well. We hope that you will continue to be part of our community, help it grow, bring lots of people in, and continue these really important conversations. So a massive thank you to our speakers, a massive thank you to all of you, our audience, and good night.